The diamond caught the light like a guilty conscience, big, flashy, and impossible to ignore. My wife Rina held it up between us like some kind of peace offering, her manicured fingers trembling just enough to make me wonder if she actually believed her own bullshit. Miles, honey, we need to talk. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I set down my coffee and leaned back in our kitchen chair, the one with the wobbly leg I'd been meaning to fix for 3 years. Funny how you notice the broken things when your whole life's about to collapse. No, Rina, we really don't. That was the moment I stopped being her husband and started being her reckoning. She'd been gone for 4 days on another one of her girls' trips with Viv, her enabler-in-chief best friend. 4 days of suspicious silence, followed by cryptic texts about needing space to think, the kind of thinking that apparently required new lingerie, tags still attached in her overnight bag, and a shower the second she walked through our loft door. But Miles, this changes everything. Derek proposed. Derek. Of course his name was Derek. Probably drove a BMW, wore too much cologne, and called women babe, unironically. I could picture him perfectly. The kind of guy who thought a Rolex made him interesting and tipped bartenders with business cards. Congratulations, I said, taking another sip of coffee. When's the wedding? Her face crumpled like a bad poker hand. You don't understand. I love him. I've been seeing him for 6 months and... 6 months. I nodded slowly, doing the math. 6 months of late nights at work conferences, 6 months of mysterious phone calls taken in our bedroom with the door closed, 6 months of her suddenly caring about her appearance again, buying clothes I never saw her wear around me. Miles, please. I never meant for it to happen this way. What way did you mean for it to happen? Were you planning to introduce us at the wedding? She started crying then, those pretty tears that used to make me want to fix whatever was wrong. Now they just reminded me of the time she cried when I caught her lying about spending $300 on shoes. I want a divorce, she whispered. I know you do. I stood up, rinsed my mug in the sink, and turned back to face her. But here's the thing, sweetheart. You don't get to blow up our marriage and then dictate the terms of the explosion. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I caught the name on the screen. Derek with a heart emoji. How romantic. He's waiting for me, she said. We're going to tell his parents today. Better hurry then. Wouldn't want to keep Derek waiting. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, then paused. I'll come back tomorrow to get some things. Sure you will. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and I stood alone in our kitchen, looking at the coffee ring stains on our granite countertop. Rina always said we needed coasters, but I'd never listened. Now it seemed like the least of our problems. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Sam's number. Sam Martinez had been my buddy since college, the kind of friend who'd help you move a body without asking questions. Today, I just needed him to help me move some furniture. Sam, it's Miles. You busy today? For you? Never. What's up? I need to hire some movers, fast. Moving where? Not where. Who? There was a pause. Rina. Rina. About damn time, brother. What do you need? I walked to our bedroom window and looked down at the street below. Our loft was on the 4th floor of a converted warehouse, with big windows and exposed brick that Rina had called so authentic, nyao, when we'd moved in 3 years ago. She'd loved the open floor plan, the way you could see from the kitchen to the living room to her little office space in the corner. Now I realized it was probably because there were fewer places to hide. I need everything she owns out of here by tonight. Everything? Every last hair tie, Sam. I want this place so clean of her stuff that it looks like she never existed. Where am I moving it to? I smiled for the first time in months. Her parents' house. Sam laughed, the kind of deep belly laugh that made me remember why we'd been friends for 20 years. You evil genius. Richard and Patricia Cole's perfect lawn. Right on the front porch. This is going to cost you. I'll pay double. Deal. Give me 2 hours. I hung up and walked through our loft, really looking at it for the first time in years. Rina's stuff was everywhere. Her yoga mats by the window, her collection of scented candles on every surface, her stack of romance novels on the nightstand. The novels were particularly ironic now. All those stories about women finding true love, and here she was, living one in real life. My phone rang. Unknown number. Miles Turner. Mr. Turner, this is Patricia Larkin from the Grandview Hotel. You handle our quarterly audits? Of course, Mrs. Larkin. What can I do for you? Well, this is a bit awkward, but I thought you should know. Your wife has been booking rooms here under her maiden name, Cole, Always with the same gentleman, tall, drives a silver BMW. They've been regulars for about 6 months now. I sat down heavily on our couch, the one Rina had insisted we buy even though it cost more than my car. Mrs. Larkin, I appreciate you calling. I'm sorry, dear. I know this must be difficult. But when I saw her picture in the society pages this morning, announcing her engagement to that Derek fellow, well, I thought you should know she's been lying to him too. She told him she was divorced. She told him what? Last week, she introduced him to our concierge as her fiancé, said she'd been divorced for 2 years and was finally ready to remarry. The poor man seemed genuinely smitten. I thanked Mrs. Larkin and hung up, then immediately Googled Derek Morrison engagement announcement. There it was, in the local society blog. A photo of Rina and a guy who looked exactly like I'd imagined. Square jaw, perfect teeth, and empty eyes that screamed, "Trust fund, baby." The caption read, Local real estate executive Derek Morrison announces his engagement to hospitality manager Rina Cole. The bride-to-be, recently divorced, says she's excited to start fresh with the love of her life. Recently divorced. I was apparently divorced, and nobody had told me. Sam arrived with a 3-man crew at exactly 2 o'clock, armed with boxes, tape, and the kind of efficiency that comes from years of practice. I'd worked with Sam's moving company before. He'd started it after college and built it into the most reliable service in the city. Where do you want us to start? Sam asked, surveying our loft like a general planning a siege. Her closet. Everything. Clothes, shoes, jewelry, the works. What about the stuff you bought together? I thought about it. If she picked it out, it goes. If she complained about not having it, it goes. If she ever said it completed the room, it definitely goes. Sam grinned. This is going to be therapeutic as hell. They worked like a pit crew. Rina's designer clothes went into wardrobe boxes, her shoes into smaller containers, her books and knickknacks wrapped carefully in tissue paper. I supervised, pointing out items they might have missed, her special coffee pods, her collection of face masks, the throw pillows she'd bought to add color to our neutral couch. What about this? Sam held up a framed photo of Rina and me from our wedding 3 years ago. We looked happy. Young, stupid. Trash. You sure? I looked at the photo again. Rina in her white dress, me in my rented tux, both of us grinning like we'd won the lottery. Actually, no. Pack it. She might want to show Derek what a real wedding looks like. By 5 o'clock, our loft looked like a completely different place. Bigger, somehow. Cleaner. The walls where her art had hung showed pale rectangles, like evidence of a crime scene. Her office space in the corner was empty except for the Ethernet cable snaking across the floor. That's everything, Sam announced. Truck's loaded. You want to come watch us unload? I considered it, then shook my head. I have something else to do first. After Sam left, I sat down at my computer and drafted 3 emails. The first was to Derek Morrison, sent to his business email address, which I'd found on his real estate company's website. Derek, congratulations on your engagement. I thought you should know that Rina is still married to me. Our divorce isn't finalized because it was never started. You might want to ask her about that. Also, the loft she's been living in, it's mine. She's not on the lease. Best of luck, Miles Turner. The second email went to Rina's boss at the hotel chain where she worked as a hospitality manager. Dear Ms. Chen, I thought you should know that my wife Rina has been using company resources to conduct a personal affair. She's been booking rooms at competitor hotels during work hours and charging them to personal expenses while claiming to be on business trips. I have documentation if you need it. Regards, Miles Turner. The third email was the simplest, sent to Rina herself. Your stuff is at your parents' house. Your key won't work anymore. Don't bother coming back. I hit send on all 3 and poured myself a scotch. The good stuff, the bottle Rina had bought me for my birthday last year and then complained about the cost for 3 months afterward. My phone started ringing at 6:30. First Rina, then a number I didn't recognize, then Rina again. I let them all go to voicemail and turned on the news instead. The doorbell rang at 7. I checked the security camera on my phone and saw Derek Morrison standing in our lobby, looking like he'd been hit by a truck. His perfect hair was messed up, his tie was crooked, and his face was red with anger. I buzzed him up. He knocked on my door like he was trying to break it down. When I opened it, he pushed past me into the loft without being invited. Where is she? He demanded. I assume with you. Isn't that how engagements work? Cut the crap, Turner. What did you do? I closed the door and leaned against it, arms crossed. Derek was bigger than me, probably worked out at one of those expensive gyms where they give you towels and protein shakes. But he looked like he was about to cry, which took some of the intimidation factor away. I didn't do anything. I just shared some information. She's married to you. Yep. She told me she was divorced. She tells lots of people lots of things. Doesn't make them true. He ran his hands through his hair, messing it up even more. This is insane. We've been together for 6 months. We're in love? Congratulations. So were we once. Where are her things? Safe and sound at her childhood home. I'm sure Richard and Patricia are thrilled to have their little girl back. Derek's face went through several different expressions: confusion, anger, embarrassment, and finally something that might have been understanding. You knew. I suspected. But suspecting and knowing are different things. Thanks for clearing that up. I didn't know she was married. I believe you. And I did. Derek might have been an arrogant, pretty boy, but he seemed genuinely shocked by the revelation that his fiancée was already married. She's good at lying. It's like a talent. What happens now? Now? Now you get to decide if you want to be with someone who's been lying to both of us for 6 months. Personally, I'd recommend running, but that's just me. Derek looked around our empty loft, taking in the missing furniture and bare walls. You really moved all her stuff out. Every last bobby pin? Why? I finished my scotch and set the glass down on our coffee table. My coffee table now. Because I'm done being married to someone who doesn't want to be married to me, and because I'm petty as hell when someone tries to make me look like an idiot. Derek nodded slowly, like he was processing information he didn't want to believe. She's probably at her parents' house. Probably. I should go talk to her. You should, but Derek, when you do, ask her what else she's been lying about. 6 months is a long time to keep up a fake story. I'm betting there's more. After Derek left, I ordered Chinese food and ate it, standing at my kitchen counter, looking out at the city lights. For the first time in months, our loft felt like home again. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. Package delivered. You should see the look on Richard Cole's face. Pure gold. I smiled and typed back. Pictures? Video. Sending now. The video was even better than I'd imagined. Sam had positioned his truck right in front of the Coles' pristine colonial house, with its manicured lawn and circular driveway. Richard Cole, Rina's father, stood on his front porch in his golf clothes, watching in horror as box after box of his daughter's belongings were stacked on his porch. You could see the exact moment he realized what was happening. His face went from confusion to embarrassment to fury in about 30 seconds. Patricia, Rina's mother, appeared in the doorway wearing her tennis outfit, took one look at the growing pile of boxes, and disappeared back inside. The best part was the end, when Derek's BMW pulled into the driveway just as Sam's crew was finishing up. Derek got out of his car, looked at the boxes, looked at Richard Cole's mortified expression, and got back in his car without saying a word. Rina's car pulled in just as Derek was pulling out. They had a brief conversation through their car windows. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but body language told the whole story. Derek drove away, and Rina sat in her car for a full 5 minutes before getting out to face her parents and the mountain of her belongings. I watched the video 3 times before saving it to my phone. Evidence in case I needed it later. The voicemail started around 9, first Rina crying and begging me to call her back, then her mother demanding I come pick up this mess immediately. Then Rina again, angry this time, threatening to call the police for harassment. I deleted them all without listening to the whole messages. At 10:30, my building's security called. Mr. Turner, there's a woman down here claiming to be your wife. She says her key isn't working. That's because she doesn't live here anymore. Please ask her to leave. She's pretty upset, sir. I'm sure she is, but she's trespassing now. Understood. I went to bed in our king-size bed, my bed now, and slept better than I had in months. I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Apparently word travels fast in Rina's social circle. The texts were a mix of outrage, confusion, and what I could only describe as social media panic. Viv, Rina's best friend and chief enabler, had sent 12 messages alone, each one more hysterical than the last. Miles, what the hell did you do? Rina is devastated. How could you be so cruel? She's crying so hard she can't breathe. Her parents are furious. Derek won't answer her calls. You've ruined everything. She loves him. This is all a misunderstanding. Call me back right now. I'm calling your work. You're going to pay for this. I deleted the whole thread and made coffee. Real coffee. Not the expensive organic stuff Rina insisted on buying. Just regular coffee that tasted like coffee instead of pretension. My phone rang. Sam. Dude, you're famous. What do you mean? Check Instagram, #Renegate. I didn't have Instagram, but I did have a computer. A quick search showed me that Rina's humiliation had gone viral in our social circle. Someone, probably one of the Coles' neighbors, had filmed the delivery of her belongings and posted it online. The video had been shared dozens of times, with comments ranging from supportive, "You go miles," to judgmental, "This is so petty," to purely entertained, "Better than Netflix." "This is insane," I told Sam. "This is justice," he corrected. "How are you feeling?" Like I should probably call in sick to work. "Do it. Come help me with a job instead. I could use an extra pair of hands, and you could use the distraction." Sam was right. Sitting around my empty loft all day would just give me time to second-guess myself. "What kind of job?" "Office move, downtown. Easy money." I called my boss and explained that I was dealing with a family emergency. It wasn't exactly a lie. My family was definitely in a state of emergency, even if I was the one who'd caused it. The office move turned out to be exactly what I needed. Physical work that required focus, but not much thought. Sam's crew was efficient and professional, and I fell into the rhythm of packing, lifting, and loading without having to think about Rina or Derek or the mess I'd created. During lunch, Sam brought up what we were both thinking about. "So what's the plan now?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, you just nuked your marriage from orbit. What's your next move?" I thought about it while eating my sandwich. "I honestly don't know. I guess I wait for her to file for divorce." "And if she doesn't?" "She will. She can't marry Derek while she's still married to me." "Unless she does it anyway." The thought hadn't occurred to me, but it was possible. Rina was impulsive enough to have a wedding ceremony without bothering with the legal paperwork. It would be fraud, technically, but she might not care about that. "Then Derek would be committing bigamy without knowing it," I said. "That's his problem." "You're cold, man. I like it." My phone buzzed with a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Miles Turner. "Mr. Turner, this is Janet Chen from Grandview Hotels. I believe you know my employee, Rina Cole?" Rina's boss. This was going to be interesting. "Yes, I do. I received your email yesterday regarding Mrs. Cole's conduct. I wanted to follow up with you about some of the allegations you made." "They're not allegations, they're facts." "I see. Well, we take these matters very seriously. Would you be available to come in and discuss this further? I'd like to see any documentation you mentioned." I looked at Sam, who was listening with obvious interest. "When?" "Would this afternoon work? Say 3 o'clock. I'll be there." After I hung up, Sam whistled low. "You really went scorched earth on this, didn't you?" "She made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences." "What kind of documentation do you have?" "Credit card statements, mostly. Hotel charges on days she claimed to be working, receipts for restaurants I've never been to, phone records showing calls to Derek during work hours." I'd spent most of the previous evening gathering evidence, partly for the divorce proceedings and partly because I was curious about how long the affair had been going on. "That's pretty damning." "It gets worse. I found emails on our shared computer where she was coordinating with Derek about their business meetings. Turns out they were using fake client names to book conference rooms at his office." Sam shook his head. "How did you not know?" "I trusted her. Stupid, right?" "Not stupid. Human." We finished the move by 2:30, and I drove straight to the Grandview Hotel. It was one of those old-fashioned places that tried to look classy but mostly just looked expensive. Lots of marble and gold fixtures that screamed, "We charge too much for everything." Janet Chen turned out to be a small, serious woman in her 50s who looked like she'd never smiled in her life. She led me to a conference room and offered me coffee, which I accepted mostly because I was nervous. "Mr. Turner, I want to be clear about why we're having this conversation. Rina Cole has been with our company for 2 years, and her performance has been exemplary. However, the allegations you've made are serious enough to warrant investigation." "I understand." "Can you walk me through your concerns?" I pulled out the folder I'd prepared and spread the documents across the table. "These are credit card statements showing charges at competitor hotels on days when Rina claimed to be working. Here are restaurant receipts from places she said she was having business dinners, but the times don't match her work schedule. And these are phone records showing calls to Derek Morrison during work hours." Ms. Chen examined each document carefully, making notes on a legal pad. "How did you obtain these records?" "Joint credit card account, shared phone plan, all legal." "And you believe she was conducting a personal relationship during work hours?" "I know she was. She's been having an affair with Derek Morrison for 6 months. They've been using hotel rooms for their meetings and claiming it was work-related." Ms. Chen set down her pen and looked at me directly. "Mr. Turner, I have to ask, are you doing this because you're angry about the affair or because you genuinely believe company policies were violated?" It was a fair question. "Both, honestly. But the policy violations are real. You can verify everything I've shown you. We will. In the meantime, I need to inform you that Mrs. Cole called in sick today. She also submitted a resignation letter this morning, effective immediately. I sat back in my chair, surprised. She quit? She did. Which makes this investigation somewhat moot, but we'll still look into it for our records. What about her final paycheck? Benefits? If we find evidence of policy violations, we may withhold final compensation pending further review. I gathered up my documents and stood to leave. Ms. Chen, can I ask you something? Of course. Did you like her? As an employee, I mean? Ms. Chen considered the question. She was charming, good with clients, but there were always little inconsistencies in her reports. Nothing major, just details that didn't quite add up. I chalked it up to poor record keeping. Now you know better. Now I know better. I left the hotel feeling oddly deflated. I'd expected more resistance, more drama. Instead, Rina had simply quit and walked away. It felt anticlimactic. My phone rang as I was getting into my car. Rina. Miles, please, we need to talk. No, we don't. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about everything. I never meant for it to happen this way. What way did you mean for it to happen, Rina? Were you going to fake your own passing? Move to another state? Just keep lying forever? I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to plan secret hotel meetings and lie to 2 different men for 6 months. She started crying again. Derek won't talk to me. He says he needs time to think. Smart man? My parents are furious. They made me sleep in the guest room because they're embarrassed to have neighbors see all my stuff on the porch. Maybe you should get your own place. With what money? I quit my job. Why did you do that? Because you ruined everything. My boss was asking all these questions about my work schedule and hotel receipts, and I knew you'd told them about Derek. I told them the truth? You told them lies to make me look bad. Rina, I showed them credit card statements and phone records. Facts aren't lies just because you don't like them. She was quiet for a moment. What do you want? I want a divorce. A simple, uncontested divorce where we split our minimal assets and go our separate ways. And if I don't agree, then I'll file for divorce myself and make sure everyone knows why, including Derek's boss, Derek's parents, and anyone else who might be interested in your track record with honesty. You wouldn't. Try me. I hung up and drove home, feeling like I'd just finished a job interview for a position I didn't want. My loft felt bigger and emptier than it had the night before, but also cleaner somehow, like I'd finally gotten rid of something that had been making me sick without realizing it. Sam called around 6. How did it go with the hotel? She quit before they could fire her. Smart. Derek's not talking to her. Smarter. Her parents are embarrassed. Smartest of all. I laughed, the first genuine laugh I'd had in months. So what now? Now you live your life. Date someone who doesn't lie to you. Buy furniture you actually like. Eat cereal for dinner if you want to. You're free, man. Free. It was a word I hadn't associated with marriage in a long time, but Sam was right. For the first time in years, I could do whatever I wanted without having to consider Rina's opinions, preferences, or elaborate lies. I ordered pizza and ate it while watching a movie Rina had always hated. Then I rearranged the furniture in our living room, my living room, just because I could. It felt like the first day of the rest of my life. 3 days later, I was starting to think the worst was over. Rina had stopped calling, the social media buzz was fading, and I'd actually managed to sleep through the night without waking up angry. I should have known better. I was having lunch at Murphy's, a dive bar near my office that served surprisingly good burgers. When they walked in, Viv, Rina's best friend, followed by 2 other women I recognized from Rina's social circle. They spotted me immediately and made a beeline for my table. Miles Turner, you are a piece of work, Viv announced loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. I looked up from my burger and fries. Viv, ladies, how's the unemployment line treating Rina? You destroyed her life, said Jessica, one of Rina's yoga friends. She's devastated. She destroyed her own life. I just helped everyone else find out about it. She made a mistake, Viv said, sliding uninvited into the booth across from me. People make mistakes. That doesn't give you the right to humiliate her publicly. Actually, it kind of does. She humiliated me for 6 months. I just returned the favor in about 6 hours. The third woman, whose name I couldn't remember, leaned forward aggressively. Do you have any idea what you've done? Derek won't talk to her. Her parents are barely speaking to her. She had to move into that awful apartment complex on the south side. Sounds like she's experiencing consequences. Novel concept, I know. You're enjoying this, Viv accused. I'm not enjoying it. She loves him, Miles. She really loves him. She loved me too once. Didn't stop her from cheating on me. That's different. How? Viv struggled for an answer. She was unhappy. You two weren't right for each other. So the solution was to lie to me for 6 months while she auditioned my replacement? She was trying to figure things out? She figured them out, all right. She figured out that she wanted to have her cake and eat it too. Unfortunately for her, I'm not a bakery. Jessica slammed her hand on the table. You are so cruel. She's a good person who made a bad choice. A good person would have asked for a divorce before starting a relationship with someone else. A good person wouldn't have lied to both men about her situation. A good person wouldn't have stolen from her employer to fund her affair. She didn't steal anything. She used company resources for personal business. She lied on expense reports. She booked rooms at competitor hotels and claimed they were work-related. In most places, that's called embezzlement. The women exchanged glances. Clearly, Rina hadn't shared all the details of her situation with her support group. You're lying, Viv said, but her voice lacked conviction. I'm really not. Ask her about the hotel receipts. Ask her about the fake client meetings. Ask her why she really quit her job. The unnamed woman leaned back in her seat. Rina said you made up stories to get her fired. Rina says a lot of things. How many of them have turned out to be true lately? That hit home. I could see the doubt creeping into their expressions as they realized they'd been defending someone who'd been lying to everyone, including them. She needs our support right now, Viv said weakly. She needs to face reality. Actions have consequences. She chose to have an affair, she chose to lie about it, and she chose to try to have 2 relationships at the same time. Now she gets to live with the results of those choices. What about forgiveness? Jessica asked. What about second chances? What about them? She can ask Derek for forgiveness if she wants. She can ask her parents, her former employer, and all the people she lied to. But she doesn't get to ask me to pretend the last 6 months didn't happen just because she's sorry she got caught. Viv stood up abruptly. Come on, girls, we're wasting our time here. Tell Rina I said hi, I called after them. And tell her my offer still stands. Quick, uncontested divorce, and we both move on with our lives. After they left, I finished my lunch in peace, but I could feel the other patrons staring at me. Small towns were like that. Everyone knew everyone else's business, and my business had become particularly entertaining. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Derek. Can we meet? I stared at the message for a long moment before responding. When and where? Tonight, 7 p.m., Starbucks on Main Street. See you there. I spent the rest of the afternoon wondering what Derek could possibly want to discuss. Apologies, explanations, a fight. With Derek, any of those seemed possible. I arrived at Starbucks a few minutes early and ordered a coffee I didn't really want. Derek showed up right on time, looking like he'd aged 5 years in the past week. His perfect hair was disheveled, his clothes were wrinkled, and he had the hollow-eyed look of someone who hadn't been sleeping. Thanks for meeting me, he said, sitting down across from me. Sure. What's on your mind? I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Shoot. Did you know? Before last week, I mean. Did you know about us? I considered lying, but Derek looked so genuinely miserable that I decided to give him the truth. I suspected something was wrong. She was acting differently, being secretive, staying out late, but I didn't know for sure until she showed me the ring. How long do you think it was going on? She told me 6 months. Based on the evidence I found, that sounds about right. Derek nodded slowly. She told me she'd been divorced for 2 years. That was a lie. I know that now. What else was she lying about? Probably everything. Her job situation, her living arrangements, her relationship history. When someone lies about being married, they're usually lying about other things too. She said you were abusive, that you controlled her finances and isolated her from her friends. I almost laughed. Derek, you've seen my apartment. You've met her friends. Do I seem like someone who could control Rina? No, he admitted. You really don't. She's trying to rewrite history to make herself look like the victim. It's easier than admitting she made selfish choices. Derek stared into his coffee cup. I loved her. I really thought she was the one. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't help, but I am sorry. You didn't deserve to be lied to any more than I did. What kind of person does this? Lies to 2 people for months and then acts surprised when it blows up? The kind of person who thinks the rules don't apply to them. The kind of person who believes their own excuses. She keeps calling me, texting, showing up at my office. What does she want? To explain, to apologize, to get back together. Derek looked up at me. She says you forced her into the affair by being a bad husband. Do you believe that? I don't know what to believe anymore. 6 months of my life was based on lies. I felt genuinely sorry for Derek. Whatever his flaws, he'd been played just as badly as I had. Can I give you some advice? Please. Block her number. Tell your office not to let her in. Don't see her, don't talk to her, don't give her any opportunity to spin more stories. She's good at making people feel sorry for her, and she'll use that to manipulate you into giving her another chance. You think she'd do it again? I think she's doing it right now. She's trying to get you back while simultaneously trying to negotiate a favorable divorce with me. She's still trying to have it both ways. Derek was quiet for a long moment. I bought a ring, a real one, not the placeholder she was wearing. I was going to propose properly next week. What are you going to do with it? Return it, I guess. Take the loss and move on. Smart choice. Can I ask you something else? Sure. Do you hate her? I thought about it. No, I'm angry and I'm disappointed, but I don't hate her. Hate takes too much energy and she's not worth it. I think I hate her, Derek said quietly. Is that wrong? It's honest. She made you fall in love with someone who doesn't exist. That's worth being angry about. We sat in silence for a while, two men who'd been played by the same woman, trying to figure out how to move forward. What happens now? Derek asked. Now you go live your life, date someone honest, be more careful about red flags, learn from this and do better next time. What about you? Same thing. Plus I get divorced and try to remember what it feels like to trust someone. Derek stood up to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry about how this all went down. If I'd known she was married... I know. You seem like a decent guy, Derek. Don't let her turn you into someone you're not. After Derek left, I sat in Starbucks for another hour, thinking about the conversation. He really had been completely blindsided by Rina's deception, just like I had been. The difference was that I'd had 3 years to see the warning signs, while he'd only had 6 months of carefully crafted lies. My phone buzzed with a call from Rina. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. What do you want, Rina? Derek told me you two met tonight. So? What did you tell him? The truth. Novel concept, I know. Miles, please. I'm trying to fix this. Fix what? Your relationship with Derek? Your relationship with me? Your relationship with reality? All of it. I made mistakes, but I can fix them if people would just give me a chance. Derek's not going to take you back, Rina, and neither am I. It's over. It doesn't have to be. We could go to counseling. We could work through this. There's nothing to work through. You cheated on me for 6 months and lied to everyone about it. That's not a rough patch. That's a character flaw. I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of not having to face consequences for your actions. You love the idea of having backup options. But you don't love me, and you don't love Derek either. That's not true. Prove it. Sign the divorce papers and let us both move on with our lives. And if I don't? Then I'll file for divorce myself and make sure everyone knows exactly why, including Derek's family, your new neighbors, and anyone else who might be interested in your version of the truth. She hung up without saying goodbye. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The confrontation with her friends had been annoying, but the conversation with Derek had been unexpectedly therapeutic. There was something validating about talking to someone who'd been fooled by the same lies. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. How's the divorce life treating you? Not divorced yet, I texted back, but getting closer. Want to grab a beer and celebrate prematurely? Absolutely. I met Sam at Murphy's, the same place where Rina's friends had ambushed me earlier. The irony wasn't lost on me. So, Sam said, raising his beer, to freedom. To truth, I corrected. Freedom's just a side effect. We clinked glasses and drank to the end of my marriage and the beginning of whatever came next. 2 weeks later, I thought I was done with Rina drama. The divorce papers had been filed, she'd stopped calling, and Derek had apparently taken my advice about blocking her number. I was starting to feel like a normal person again. Then I got a call from my lawyer. Miles, we have a problem. What kind of problem? Rina's contesting the divorce. She's hired an attorney, and she's making some pretty serious allegations. I sat down heavily in my office chair. What kind of allegations? Emotional abuse, financial control, and she's claiming you destroyed her property when you moved her belongings out of the apartment. That's insane. I moved her stuff carefully and had it delivered safely to her parents' house. I know, but she's saying you damaged valuable items and violated her privacy by going through her personal belongings. Her personal belongings were in my apartment, and I have video of the movie showing everything was handled professionally. Good. We'll need that. She's also claiming you sabotaged her career by spreading lies to her employer. I showed her employer documented evidence of policy violations. That's not sabotage, that's accountability. I agree, but her lawyer is spinning it as a vindictive husband trying to destroy his wife's life out of spite. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. What does she want? Alimony. Half of everything. And she wants you to pay her legal fees. Are you kidding me? I wish I were. She's claiming she gave up career opportunities to support your marriage, and now she's financially devastated because of your actions. She gave up career opportunities to have an affair with Derek Morrison. That's what we'll argue. But Miles, this is going to get ugly. She's playing the victim card hard, and her lawyer seems to think it might work. After I hung up with my lawyer, I sat in my office staring out the window at the city below. I'd tried to handle the divorce quietly and civilly, but Rina apparently had other ideas. If she wanted to play hardball, I was ready to play back. I called Sam first. She's contesting the divorce and demanding alimony, I told him, after she cheated on you for 6 months. Her lawyer thinks she can spin it as my fault somehow. What are you going to do? Fight back, but I'm going to need help. Whatever you need, man. I need you to put me in touch with that private investigator you used when your ex tried to claim she deserved half your business. Tony Ricci, I'll text you his number. But Miles, are you sure you want to go down this road? It's going to get expensive and messy. She made it messy when she decided to lie to a judge about what happened. I'm just going to make sure the truth comes out. Tony Ricci turned out to be exactly what I needed, a former cop with a talent for finding information people didn't want found. We met at a coffee shop downtown, and I explained the situation. So your wife had a 6-month affair, lied about being divorced to her boyfriend, used company resources to fund the relationship, and now she's claiming you're the bad guy? That's about the size of it. And you want me to find evidence to support your side of the story? I want you to find the truth, whatever that looks like. Tony smiled. I like you already. Most people want me to find evidence to support their version of events. You actually want facts. Facts work better in court. They do indeed. What kind of timeline are we looking at? Her lawyer wants to drag this out as long as possible. Mine wants to settle quickly. I want to win decisively. Winning decisively costs more money. I'll pay whatever it takes. Tony spent the next 2 weeks digging into Rina's life with the thoroughness of an archaeologist. What he found was even worse than I'd suspected. Your wife's been busy, he told me when we met again. The affair with Derek Morrison was just the tip of the iceberg. What do you mean? I mean, she's been running a pattern for years. This isn't her first rodeo. Tony spread a folder of documents across the table. Before Derek, there was a guy named Marcus Webb. Real estate agent, divorced, thought he was dating a single woman named Rina Cole. When? 8 months ago, right around your second wedding anniversary. I stared at the photos Tony had taken. Rina and a man I didn't recognize having dinner at an expensive restaurant, holding hands across the table like lovers. It gets better, Tony continued. Before Marcus, there was someone else, and before him, someone else. Your wife's been cheating on you almost since the day you got married. How many? That I can prove? 4 different men over the past 2 years. That I suspect but can't prove? Probably more. The room felt like it was spinning. What about the money? She's been skimming from joint accounts to pay for these relationships. Dinners, hotels, gifts. I found receipts for jewelry she bought for at least 2 different men. With our money. With your money. She's also been lying on tax returns about her income and claiming business expenses that were actually personal. I looked through the evidence Tony had compiled. Photos, receipts, bank records, hotel registrations. It painted a picture of someone who'd been living a completely double life for years. There's more, Tony said. She's been telling each of these men that she was single or divorced. Derek wasn't the only one who got the recently divorced story. They all thought they were dating a single woman. Every one of them, and she was good at it, kept them separated geographically, used different social media accounts, even had different phone numbers for different relationships. How did she manage all that? Practice. Your wife's a professional liar, Miles. This isn't someone who made a mistake or had a moment of weakness. This is someone who's been systematically deceiving everyone in her life for years. I gathered up the documents and photos, feeling sick to my stomach. What about her claims against me, the abuse allegations? Complete fiction. I talked to your neighbors, your co-workers, people who've seen you two together. Everyone says you were a devoted husband who seemed to worship the ground she walked on. I was an idiot. You were trusting. There's a difference. What happens now? Now we take this evidence to your lawyer and watch Rina's case fall apart. No judge is going to award alimony to someone who's been systematically defrauding their spouse for years. My lawyer's reaction to Tony's evidence was everything I'd hoped for. This is devastating, she said, flipping through the folder. Absolutely devastating to her case. Good. Miles, with evidence like this, we can not only defeat her claims, but potentially file countersuits for fraud, theft, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. I don't want her money. I just want her out of my life. Understood. But this evidence gives us enormous leverage. She'll have no choice but to accept a quick, clean divorce with no alimony and no division of assets. And if she doesn't, then we go to trial and destroy her credibility so thoroughly that she'll be lucky to avoid criminal charges. The confrontation came sooner than expected. Rina's lawyer called for an emergency meeting, claiming his client had additional information that would resolve the case quickly. We met in a conference room at my lawyer's office. Me, my lawyer, Rina, and her lawyer. Rina looked terrible. She'd lost weight, her hair was unwashed, and she had the desperate look of someone who knew they were cornered. Mr. Turner, her lawyer began, my client would like to apologize for the allegations she made in her initial filing. She was emotional and not thinking clearly. Okay, I said. She's prepared to withdraw her claims for alimony and property division in exchange for a simple no-fault divorce. My lawyer smiled. That's generous, but we have some concerns about Mrs. Turner's conduct during the marriage that we'd like to address. What kind of concerns? Rina's lawyer asked, but his voice suggested he already knew. My lawyer slid a copy of Tony's evidence across the table. These kinds of concerns. I watched Rina's face as her lawyer flipped through the photos and documents. She went pale, then red, then pale again. Her lawyer's expression grew grimmer with each page. Where did you get this? Rina whispered. Legal investigation, my lawyer replied, all obtained through proper channels. This is harassment, Rina's lawyer said, but his heart wasn't in it. This is evidence of systematic fraud, adultery, and theft, my lawyer corrected. We're prepared to file criminal complaints if necessary. Rina started crying. Not the pretty tears she'd used to manipulate me for years, but ugly, desperate sobs of someone who'd finally been caught. I can explain, she said. Please do, my lawyer replied. I was unhappy. I felt trapped. I made mistakes, but I never meant to hurt anyone. You stole money from joint accounts to fund relationships with 4 different men over 2 years, my lawyer said. You lied on tax returns, violated the terms of your employment, and committed fraud by misrepresenting your marital status. Which part of that was a mistake? Rina's lawyer leaned over and whispered something in her ear. She shook her head violently, then whispered back. They had a brief, heated conversation in low voices before her lawyer sat back. My client is prepared to agree to an immediate divorce with no claims against Mr. Turner's assets or income, he said. In exchange, Mr. Turner agrees not to pursue criminal charges or civil damages. My lawyer looked at me. It's your call, Miles. I looked at Rina, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She was a stranger to me now. Not the woman I'd married, not even the woman I'd thought was having a simple affair. She was someone who'd been lying to me since almost the beginning of our relationship, someone who'd built an entire fake life on top of our marriage. I want her to admit it, I said. Admit what? Her lawyer asked. All of it. The affairs, the lies, the theft. I want her to admit that she systematically deceived me and multiple other men for years. I want it on the record. Rina's lawyer started to object, but Rina stopped him. It's true, she said quietly. All of it. I cheated on Miles with 4 different men over 2 years. I told them all I was single or divorced. I used our joint money to pay for hotels and dinners and gifts. I lied about business expenses and claimed personal costs as work-related. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. I'm sorry, Miles. I'm so sorry. Why? I asked. Because I could. Because it was exciting. Because I liked having secrets and feeling like I was getting away with something. She wiped her nose with a tissue. Because I'm a terrible person who doesn't deserve forgiveness. It was the first honest thing she'd said to me in years. Okay, I told my lawyer. Draw up the papers. The divorce was finalized 3 days later. Rina signed everything without reading it, took nothing from our shared life except her personal belongings, and moved out of state within a week. I heard from mutual friends that she'd gone to live with a cousin in Arizona, but I didn't ask for details. Derek sent me a text message. Heard about the divorce. Hope you're doing okay. I texted back, better than okay. Hope you are too. Getting there. Thanks for the warning about her. Thanks for being decent about everything. Sam took me out for what he called a divorce party at Murphy's. We drank too much beer and talked about everything except Rina. "So what now?" Sam asked as we were getting ready to leave. "Now I figure out who I am when I'm not married to a liar." "Any ideas?" "A few. I'm thinking about taking that promotion my boss offered. Maybe travel a little. Definitely get a dog. A dog's a good idea. Dogs don't cheat on you. Dogs don't lie about being divorced either. That's the spirit." I walked home through the quiet streets of our small city, thinking about the future for the first time in years. My loft would need new furniture, something I picked out myself, something that reflected my taste instead of Rina's. I'd need new routines, new habits, maybe even new friends who didn't know anything about my marriage or its spectacular implosion. For the first time since this whole mess started, I felt genuinely optimistic about what came next. I'd learned some hard lessons about trust and truth and the difference between love and manipulation, but I'd survived. More than survived. I'd won. Rina was gone, Derek was free, and I was finally living an honest life again. It had taken longer than I'd hoped and cost more than I'd wanted to pay, but justice had been served. I unlocked the door to my loft, my home now, truly mine, and stepped inside. Tomorrow I'd start building a new life. Tonight, I'd just enjoy the silence.